In the early hours of June 21st, 2025, the world watched in shock as the Middle East once again found itself on the edge of catastrophe. In what is now being called one of the most precise and potentially devastating military escalations of the decade, Iranian missiles rained down on various sites across Israel. Air raid sirens pierced the night sky, cities went dark, and families ran for shelter. But amidst the fear and destruction, something else happened.
Iran has launched over 400 ballistic missiles at Israel this week. 400. 1,000 drones have been launched at Israel from Iran since the start of the operation. Out of 1,000 deadly drones, not one of them, none of them, managed to hit their target.
Something that many are now calling divine. Miracles, real, undeniable, and timely, began to unfold across Israel, just as Iranian missiles were falling.
We in Israel are living inside a miracle. We are witnessing supernatural protection.
One of the most notable events took place at a southern hospital near the Gaza border, a region that has long been a front line in times of conflict. According to a statement released by the Israeli Health Ministry, the surgical ward of the hospital had been evacuated just days before the missile attack. While evacuations aren't uncommon in high-risk zones, what makes this account especially remarkable is what followed. Just hours before the missile strike that partially destroyed a section of the hospital building, several patients had been transferred to an underground facility. These weren't random decisions made in haste. The transfer had been scheduled and executed with a precision that now, in hindsight, feels almost prophetic.
A doctor reported to a local news channel that just yesterday they evacuated all the patients from the old surgical building, which is the one that had the direct hit. Just yesterday, that one decision saved so many lives, and we're praying for God to speak through different decision makers and lead and guide them so that more lives can be saved.
Had those patients remained in their original rooms, many could have been killed or severely injured. Staff later discovered that the missile impacted directly above the area where the patients had originally been housed. That section of the hospital was left mangled, with surgical equipment destroyed and ceilings caved in. Yet the patients, tucked away below ground, remained unharmed.
But even more than that, we're hearing stories. I mean, this week, it brings me to tears, but just yesterday, you saw the strike hit the hospital down south. And the day before, a doctor told Can News, a day before, they had just evacuated that old surgical building arm. And actually, some of the nurses admitted that they were like, are they being too extreme? Like, this seems a little bit extra. And then when that direct hit that arm, and there was nobody, I think one person got lightly injured, but there were no patients in that building anymore just from yesterday.
This sudden move was not prompted by a direct threat or urgent military intelligence. Instead, it was a combination of precaution and what staff are now calling a gut feeling. Nurses and doctors on the ward said they felt an unshakable urgency to relocate their patients below ground. Some even recounted moments of inexplicable conviction, feelings they now attribute to divine guidance. One doctor stated, "It was like a voice inside me saying, 'Move them now, don't wait.' I didn't question it, I just acted."
I heard that and I was like, this could be such a different story of patients' lives being taken in their most vulnerable state, but instead just one decision maker, just one person. And that's what I believe. I believe that God speaks, even people that don't know him, maybe even people that don't know him as Messiah yet. There's this reality that God's still speaking, he's still moving.
The surgical wing, a modern facility equipped with advanced medical equipment, bore the brunt of the strike. Footage from the scene showed shattered windows, charred walls, and beds that were tossed like matchsticks from the force of the blast. And yet, miraculously, Not a single life was lost in that section of the hospital. In a region where seconds can mean the difference between life and death, this act of providence saved many. Another account surfaced from a kibbutz in southern Israel, where a school building was hit by missile fragments. Earlier that day, the school had been scheduled to hold a community gathering. But due to an unexplained plumbing issue that morning, the event was canceled. Parents were notified, children were kept home, and the building stood empty when the explosion occurred. Once again, there were no casualties. Residents now speak in hushed tones of divine intervention, calling the incident nothing short of a miracle. In Tel Aviv, a family reported that their car broke down on the way to a crowded public square just minutes before an airstrike hit nearby. Frustrated at first, they now say the malfunction likely saved their lives. Mechanics later found no clear reason for the sudden failure. It simply stalled and wouldn't restart until long after the strike. It was frustrating in the moment, but now we know. God kept us from harm, the father said.
As Iranian ballistic missiles continue to rain down on Israeli civilian centers, is the God of Israel performing miracles in real time?
Military analysts have also noted strange radar anomalies during the attack. One defense official anonymously shared that incoming missiles seemed to inexplicably lose altitude or veer off course without clear interception. While the Iron Dome system is widely credited with preventing mass casualties, some of these particular events remain unexplained even by military standards. Some are now wondering aloud, could these too be acts of divine intervention? These are just a few of the many stories emerging from the chaos. Whether it was individuals feeling an overwhelming urge to leave a location, plans being mysteriously canceled, or infrastructure failing at just the right moment to redirect people from harm's way, the pattern is becoming impossible to ignore. And yet, we must be cautious in how we interpret these events. Are these simply coincidences strung together in a time of high emotion? Or are they signs of divine protection? For many believers, especially in Israel and among the global Christian community, the answer is clear. God is at work. What we are witnessing echoes the age-old pattern of God's hand preserving his people in the midst of danger. The God of the Bible has repeatedly shown that he can and does intervene in human history, especially in defense of his covenant people. In Exodus, he parted the Red Sea. In 2 Kings, he sent an angel to destroy the army of Sennacherib. In modern times, many historians still marvel at Israel's improbable victories during the 1967 Six-Day War and the 1973 Yom Kippur War. Time and again, when destruction seemed inevitable, something shifted. Something changed the outcome. These events serve not only as encouragement, but as a reminder, God has not forgotten Israel. He is still in control. And even as enemies rise and missiles fall, the covenant-keeping God of Israel continues to protect his people. We must also consider the prophetic timeline of Scripture. While it is clear that we are not currently in the Great Tribulation, the signs of the times are becoming more and more difficult to ignore. Wars and rumors of wars, earthquakes, spiritual deception, and moral decay all point toward the approach of that climactic period described in the book of Revelation. This is where we must pause and reflect on what Scripture says specifically about Israel in the last days. The prophet Daniel offers profound insight. In Daniel chapter 12, verse 1, he writes, "And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince, which standeth for the children of thy people. And there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation even to that same time. And at that time thy people shall be delivered. Everyone that shall be found written in the book. This verse marks the beginning of the Great Tribulation, a time of unparalleled global distress. But note the context. Michael shall stand up, the great prince which standeth for the children of thy people. This isn't just poetic language. Michael the Archangel is appointed by God as the protector of Israel. In the spiritual realm, he is Israel's defender against the forces of darkness. If Michael is to rise and defend Israel during the worst time in human history, could it be possible that we are already seeing glimpses of that protective role beginning to manifest? Could what we are witnessing be the early stages of spiritual activity that will culminate in full-scale supernatural defense during the tribulation? It's a sobering thought. While the world sees only politics, military strategies, and geopolitical conflict, believers are reminded that the battle over Israel is not merely physical, it is deeply spiritual. Behind every missile, behind every treaty, and behind every rising conflict is a cosmic battle between good and evil, between God and the forces that oppose his purposes. This understanding should stir us, not to fear, but to faith, not to panic, but to prayer. The presence of miracles in Israel during this latest conflict is a reminder that God is still present, that his eye is still on his people, that though the world may rage and though threats may come from every side, God is not absent. These miraculous accounts should awaken our faith and remind us that God is not a distant observer. He is an active participant. We are not yet in the Great Tribulation. The Antichrist has not yet been revealed. The judgments of Revelation have not yet begun to fall in their fullness. But what we are seeing may well be the foreshadowing of those events. It is in this context that the words of Jesus in Matthew chapter 24 become especially meaningful. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. Miracles serve a purpose. They are signs that point to something greater. In this case, they point to a God who is not silent, a God who keeps covenant, a God who will fulfill every prophecy down to the last detail. They also remind us that salvation is not merely about being spared from physical harm. True deliverance comes through faith in Jesus Christ. Israel's miraculous protections in the present moment are a call to pay attention to the God of their ancestors, the same God who preserved them in Egypt, in Babylon, and in the wilderness is the same God who sent his Son as their Messiah. And he has not changed. For the church, this is a time to intercede, to pray for the peace of Jerusalem, to share the gospel while there is still time, because the age of grace will not last forever. There is coming a time when decisions will be final, and the window of opportunity will close. That time is approaching faster than most are willing to admit. But for now, miracles are still happening. God is still intervening, and the story is still being written. Our task is to watch, pray, and remain faithful. Let us not waste this moment. Let us be alert. Let us be watchful. And above all, let us be ready, because soon the trumpet will sound and the King will return. Because while the world may not be in the Great Tribulation yet, the signs of its approach are unmistakable. And the God who promises to protect Israel in the future is clearly already at work today. He has set angels over his people. He has placed a hedge of protection around Jerusalem, and he has not forsaken his covenant. Miracles in Israel are breaking out, not as random events, but as reminders that God's hand is still moving, that his word is still true, and that his love for his people has not faded. This is not just news. This is prophecy in motion. This is God calling the world to attention. So to every believer watching these events unfold, lift up your eyes, stay grounded in truth, and know that even as missiles fall, the purposes of God are still being fulfilled. The God who watches over Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. That same God is watching over you. He is active, He is powerful, and He is calling His people back to Himself. And as the world hurtles toward the culmination of history, may we all be found faithful, watchful, and unwavering in our hope. Because God's timeline is not delayed and His purposes are not thwarted. Every moment is leading us closer to the final chapter. The miracles are real. The battle is spiritual. And the end is only the beginning.